a tiny baby in the first few weeks of her life. All she's aware of is a mass of sensations. Cold air, bright light, a wet nappy. She has no idea where this comes from, what it is, what to do about it. All she knows is it's not nice. That's all she's aware of. And then there are some other sensations. The taste of warm milk, warm, soft hands holding her. These are nice. When she feels something not nice, she cries. And magically, an adult appears, picks her up, talks to her soothingly. "No, it's okay, it's all right. You're upset, you're hungry. Let me give you a feed." And makes the not nice feelings go away, and the good feelings come back. Pleasure, unpleasure. That's all she's aware of. But with the help of an adult, she learns to decipher these feelings. The adults help her understand what she's feeling, and they know what to do to make her feel better. Slowly, 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 over weeks and months, the nice feelings become associated with some other sensations as well. The sound of mom's voice, her footsteps, the unique smell of her. And what's happening inside the baby's tiny little brain, there is a sensory cortex. There are areas of the brain that receive sensory signals. And then there is the amygdala, right in the center of the brain, which is the limbic area, the feeling part of the brain. And when she feels nice, the amygdala fires up and links the sensations received in the sensory cortex, and it forms the baby's first memories. The more often this is repeated in a stable, predictable, consistent way, the stronger the memory trace becomes. So very soon, baby can listen to mom's voice or her footsteps. Mom can say from the next room, I'm coming. And that's enough. That's enough to soothe the baby for a few more minutes. And soon that becomes linked to other people, just like mom. Dad, maybe, grandma, grandpa, auntie, nanny, right? So all of these acquire the same kind of properties that mom originally had. And as the brain develops, there are circuits which are constantly forming. The baby's brain is developing really, really fast. And as this develops, the baby becomes able to encode past as well as future. She has little templates for how the world works. And all of this, like I said, slowly becomes extended, expanded So there is she is able to form a symbol, a concept for mom. And she's also able to then associate her voice, her footsteps, all of that into this entire concept. So imagine how powerful that is, that there is a whole symbol for something that doesn't actually exist, and baby learns to do that. And that allows the baby to become more and more independent, to develop more confidence in exploring the world around, in deciphering how things work. So for instance, a growing child starts to understand cause and effect, right? When I cry, mom appears. That's cause and effect. But there's also what happens when I put a block like this? It falls off. What happens when I put a block like this? Oh, the block tower grows, right? And so the baby starts, the growing child by that time, starts learning to do things in a certain way, learns to plan a series of moves, learns to work towards a goal, learns to make decisions, red shoes, blue shoes, what do I want, right? But also learns to stop himself or herself, put on the brakes, don't touch, that's hot, right? And all of those are hugely important functions because it means that we are able to sort of learn, develop concepts, use that in our understanding of the world. And as adults, we use a lot of this, right? As we grow up, as we become adults, we need to learn a huge amount of stuff. We have to store vast amounts of information in our brains. We have to learn new languages, learn how to drive a car, learn to play a musical instrument, learn to play a sport, learn the rules of chess or cricket or basketball, learn how to work with other people, right? It's not easy. We have to figure out how to negotiate, how to have ruptures and repair relationships. And all of this comes from the fact that we have been able to decipher things that other adults have helped us do this in the past when we were growing up. That also helps us understand, decipher other people. The person looks grumpy today, or this person looks like he might be helpful. So all of that is really necessary for us to get through the day. Imagine almost every day, what we're actually doing is relying on other people to get us through the day, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, right? So as adults, we learn to do all of this really important stuff. But what happens when this process of deciphering doesn't go so well? What happens when there are impediments in this process? Now, one of the things that can happen is with brain injuries, right? For instance, a stroke or a tumor or a cerebral infection or a traumatic brain injury, a head injury, right? When there is a brain injury, there is a part of the brain that is damaged, that doesn't work just as usual. Or it could be a connection between different areas of the brain that's damaged. So abilities that we take for granted might not be the same anymore. I look at my watch like 100 times a day, and I look at it and I know what the time is. But when there is a brain injury, I might look at this thing and not know what it is. I have no idea what it is, what it does, I have no idea what the little dots on the dial are. I have no idea what those needles mean. I have no idea what time is anymore. And that can happen from a lesion or damage to the posterior areas of the brain, the back of the brain. So some of the adults I work with have a brain injury. Some of the other adults I work with may have a psychiatric diagnosis, obsessive compulsive disorder, or schizophrenia, or depression, or anxiety disorder. And in the case of a psychiatric disorder, there is no single lesion in the brain. It's not like a brain injury. There's no clear, obvious damage. But it seems like the connections in the brain is wired slightly differently. So it means that how the brain deciphers the world seems to be different. So it seems like the mind is constantly scanning around, looking for danger, looking for threat, and interpreting maybe perfectly innocuous things as potentially dangerous, and reacting as if it's dangerous. Some of the other people I work with, there might not be a diagnosis. There may be no brain damage, there may be no psychiatric illness, but oftentimes there is a loss. It could be the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a meaningful job or a sense of purpose, a sense of self or identity or belonging. And the loss could have been something very recent, or it could have been far back in the past. And all of us find ways of coping with these losses. And how we cope, the ways we cope, seem to be linked to the templates we have formed in our childhood. Just like we have these predictable working models of cause and effect, what happens when I do this, what should I do next, that sort of thing. It seems like it's the same kind of templates that we fall back on when we have to cope with something, when the world doesn't work the way we want it to work. Now, I've really been very interested in how all of this works, right? So sometimes what happens is that we might be focused very much on, feeling overpowers us, and thinking shuts down, or thinking becomes fuzzy. Sometimes it's the opposite. We're working excellently at work, you're absolutely cool, calm, precise, all of that, but really struggling with loneliness or a lack of meaningful relationships. And it seems like with a lot of the psychiatric disorders, and even with when these emotions take over, it seems like the limbic areas, the amygdala, which I referred to earlier, seems to be overactive. And the frontal areas, the cool, calm, reasoning areas of the brain, that seems to be underactive. So what a lot of psychological interventions do is to normalize these patterns, right? So to normalize the activation of the amygdala, the limbic areas, and to increase the activation of the frontal areas. And this is, I'm putting it very, very simplistically, but this is based on many, many kinds of studies, usually neuroimaging studies of the brain. But I'm also very interested in how this works and how to make it work better. So what happens, for instance, when we, when we're able to regulate our emotions? Does our thinking improve? What happens when we can train our focus and our thinking? Does that help us manage our emotions better? So all of these are questions that fascinate me, and that's sort of the research that I do. But I think what is most remarkable about us humans is our resilience. We can't change our past, we can't change our genes, but we are not bound by our past. What we can do is decipher these templates from the past, understand them, reflect on them, and in a sense, rewrite them. It's not simple, but it does happen. And every time we do something differently, every time we don't listen to the fear in our minds, every time we take a risk, every time we make a different choice, every single time that we do something slightly differently, we give our brains a chance to rewire itself. Other thoughts, other actions become more potent, they gain strength, and they become available to us the next time, and the next time, and the next time. So that's what we do with psychological interventions, and that's what we do in life in general. We decipher, we understand, we reflect, and we rewrite, rewire. Thank you.